So space movies have a strange problem. If it doesn't have a big-name director or a huge budget, it disappears. No marketing, no push, just buried in a scroll menu. Which is a shame, because some of the most interesting sci-fi right now lives in smaller, weirder, more personal films. Today I've got 11 of them. Some are bleak, some trippy, a couple are pure adventure, but all 11 are worth your time.
Exakt hur lång tid det kan bli frågan om kan jag i nuläget inte besvara.
I want to kick things off with a film I completely understand why most people skipped. Aniara. It's slow. It's bleak. There's no twist, no rescue mission, no third act heroics to put in a trailer. It's based on a 1956 Swedish epic poem, which already tells you this isn't chasing a mainstream audience. Directors Pella Kagerman and Hugo Lilia follow a shuttle full of ordinary passengers heading to Mars that gets knocked off course, loses its fuel, and simply drifts with no way back. What makes this one work is that there's no villain to root against. The horror is entirely physics and the slow unraveling of a society trying to build meaning while adrift forever. Emily carries the film as the Memorobin, the keeper of a virtual reality memory room that becomes the emotional core of the whole thing, and her performance is quietly devastating. I'll be honest, this is not a film for a casual night in. It asks you to sit with despair for 2 hours, and the ending offers very little comfort. But if you're the kind of viewer who responds to patient art house sci-fi, this is one of the best examples of it from the last decade. The film is called Aniara. Watch it when you're in the right headspace. Next up is a movie I think a lot of people wrote off just from the poster, Sputnik. Foreign language Russian sci-fi horror. Easy to assume it's just another Alien knockoff. Easy to scroll past. That would be a mistake. Set in 1983 at the height of the Cold War, it follows cosmonaut Konstantin, played by Peter Fyodorov, who returns from a mission as the sole survivor, carrying something back with him that isn't entirely his own. Oksana Akinshina plays a doctor assigned to study him, and Fyodor Bondarchuk plays the colonel running the facility, a character who ends up being just as unsettling as the creature itself. Writers Oleg Malevichko and Andrei Zolotarev ground the whole thing in real Soviet-era politics, which gives the horror an actual point of view instead of just jump scares. The creature design is genuinely impressive, and the central relationship carries real weight. If I'm being honest, the pacing sags slightly in the middle stretch before the tension builds back up properly, but the atmosphere and the ideas underneath it are worth pushing through that. The film is called Sputnik, and it deserves a much wider audience than it's gotten. Rounding out this first set is one that got completely overshadowed by comparisons to Event Horizon and Alien when it came out. Pandorum. Set in 2174 aboard the starship Elysium, it follows two crew members, played by Dennis Quaid and Ben Foster, who wake from hypersleep with partial amnesia and no idea how long they've been out, or what's happened to the other 60,000 people on board. Director Christian Olvart built the first half as a genuinely claustrophobic haunted house in space experience, all flickering emergency lighting and crawl spaces, and it's some of the most effective deep space dread I've seen. I do think the film loses a little of that tension once it shifts into a more conventional action mode in the back half. The mood opens up right when it should be tightening. Norman Reedus in one of his pre-Walking Dead roles is a highlight in the supporting cast. It's not a perfect film and it never fully commits to the Lovecraftian angle it's flirting with, but it's tense, well acted, and better than its muted reputation suggests. The film is called Pandorum. Give it a real chance. Real quick, before we move into the next chapter, if you're finding value in lists like this, hitting subscribe is honestly the best way to support the channel. It tells the algorithm you want more of this kind of recommendation, and it's how I keep putting these out regularly. Like button helps too, more than you'd think. Alright, let's keep going.
I never thought that one day I'd be saying the last mission before Mars.
So chapter 2 opens with the one that's going to hit differently if you're a parent or if you've ever had to choose between ambition and presence. Proxima. Director Alice Winocour isn't interested in space heroics here. This is about an astronaut, played by Eva Green in what I'd call her best screen work, training for a year-long mission to the ISS. And the real conflict is her 6-year-old daughter, played by Zélie Bouland, watching her mother prepare to disappear for a year. Matt Dillon plays a fellow astronaut who starts off calling her a space tourist, and watching that dynamic shift is one of the film's better threads. There's a specific scene later on that pulls the mood in a direction some viewers are going to find jarring. It nearly derailed the movie for me on first watch, though your mileage may vary. But the setup, the ache of choosing a career over years you can't get back with your kid, is handled with real care, and it's rare to see a space film this interested in what gets left behind on Earth. The film is called Proxima. It's a slow, quiet gut punch. Next is the genre swap most people didn't see coming, a space western. Settlers, from writer-director Wyatt Rockefeller, drops early Mars colonizers Donnie Lee Miller and Sofia Boutella, along with their daughter Remy, played first by Brooklyn Prince and later by Nell Tiger Free, into a hostile, dust-choked homestead with a message scrawled on the window that just says, "Leave." On paper, this should work beautifully. In practice, I think the pacing sags hard through the middle stretch, and the themes about human nature repeating itself even off-world never fully land the way the film wants them to. Where it does succeed is in both performances of Remy, who carry more emotional weight than a script this uneven really deserves, and in Ismael Cruz Cordova's ambiguous, unsettling turn as a man who may be protector or threat. It's a genuinely imperfect film, but it's trying something different with the genre, and I think that's worth rewarding even when it doesn't fully stick the landing. The film is called Settlers. Go in with some patience loaded.
You have to see this.
Closing out this chapter is a Mars mission gone very wrong. The Last Days on Mars, directed by Rory Robinson. A multinational crew, led by Liev Schreiber and Romola Garai, is literally hours from finishing their expedition and heading home when a crew member sneaks off to investigate signs of life he thinks he's found, because of course he does. What follows blends survival horror with something closer to a zombie outbreak, and Schreiber spends most of the film trying to keep his crew alive without a single firearm, which adds a layer of tension a lot of space horror skips entirely. Robinson clearly studied Mario Bava's Planet of the Vampires for the desert-like Martian setting, and the visual comparison holds up well. I won't pretend this film reinvents anything, it wears its influences openly, and it doesn't quite reach the height it seems to be aiming for. But the cast sells it, the atmosphere is genuinely tense, and it moves fast enough that it never overstays its welcome. The film is called The Last Days on Mars, a solid, underrated pick for a Friday night. Next is a film made for almost no money that outperforms movies with 100 times its budget. Love, from director William E. Eubank, who also shot and designed it himself, largely in his parents' backyard. Gunnar Wright plays an astronaut stranded alone on the International Space Station after all contact with Earth goes silent. And as years pass and the station slowly breaks down, so does his grip on reality. Made for roughly $500,000, it draws obvious comparisons to 2001 and Solaris, and it earns them more often than you'd expect. Wright is carrying almost the entire back half of the film on his own, and it's a genuinely committed performance. I'll be honest, the non-linear structure, cutting between his unraveling, Civil War journal entries, and interviews about the meaning of life, is going to split viewers right down the middle. Some will find it slow and scattered. I found it quietly poetic. This is love, and it earns its ambition even in the moments it stumbles.
I'm scared.
Of what? There's nothing to be scared of.
Closing out this chapter is Lord of the Flies but on a spaceship, Voyagers, written and directed by Neil Burger. Ty Sheridan, Lily Rose Debb, and Finn Whitehead play cadets on an 86-year colonization mission, kept calm and compliant by a daily drink that suppresses emotions like jealousy and rage, since none of them will live to see the planet they're heading to. When two of them stop taking it, order collapses fast, and watching that breakdown play out is honestly the most fun this whole chapter gets. Colin Farrell plays the one adult on board, a man trying to hold the mission together knowing he won't live to see it succeed, and that quiet sadness gives the chaos some real weight underneath it. I won't oversell this one, it leans into its YA sensibilities pretty openly, and it's not doing anything especially new with the nature versus nurture debate at its center, but it's well cast, well paced, and a genuinely entertaining watch that doesn't overstay its welcome. The film is called Voyagers, good, breezy popcorn sci-fi with a bit of a brain.
This is Sam Walden. If anyone can hear this broadcast, I'm still on Earth.
Starting off this last chapter is I.O., directed by Jonathan Helper. Margaret Qualley plays a young woman who stays behind on a near uninhabitable Earth, trying to prove life on the surface is still possible, while Anthony Mackie arrives with a message from her father, played by Danny Houston, urging her to leave before the last evacuation shuttle departs. It's a quiet, patient premise, and that's both the film's strength and its biggest weakness. The atmosphere is genuinely well realized, but I never felt the chemistry between Qualley and Mackie catch fire the way the story needs it to, and both characters stay a little too guarded for a little too long. The film also leans on philosophical musing more than it earns through actual plotting, posing big questions without always doing the work to develop them. It's not a bad watch by any means, it's a contemplative one, but it doesn't quite stick the landing the way it wants to. The film is called I.O., a solid mood, a shakier movie.
Next is one of the more famous box office bombs in animation history, and honestly it deserves so much better. Titan A.E. This is the movie that reportedly helped end 20th Century Fox's traditional animation division, which still feels like an overreaction once you actually watch it. Matt Damon voices Kale, a disillusioned young man who unknowingly holds the key to finding humanity's last hope after Earth is destroyed by an alien race that fears human potential. The animation blends traditional hand-drawn work with early CGI in a way that still looks genuinely striking today, especially a sequence flying through massive interstellar ice rings that rivals a lot of what modern CGI does. It's not trying to be philosophically deep, and a few of the side characters lean a little too hard into familiar archetypes, but it's confident, well-crafted, pulpy space adventure that deserved to launch a franchise instead of becoming a cautionary tale. The film is called Titan A.E. Don't let its box office history scare you off. And to close things out, I've got the film that turned Vin Diesel into an actual movie star, Pitch Black, directed by David Twohy. A ship crash lands on a planet locked in permanent daylight, and the survivors, led by Radha Mitchell, are stuck relying on a dangerous prisoner named Riddick, who happens to see perfectly in the dark, a skill that means nothing on a planet with 3 suns until it very much does. Twohy, who also made the underrated 1996 film The Arrival, gives this a slick, sun-bleached visual identity that still holds up today. I do wish the film leaned harder into the alien ecosystem it sets up instead of falling back on more conventional jump scares and hostage standoffs on the back half. There's a genuinely wild sci-fi idea buried under the survival horror shell. But it's confident, stylish, and it's the reason we ever got a Riddick franchise in the first place, even if this original still outclasses most of what came after. The film is called Pitch Black, still one of the coolest sci-fi setups of the 2000s.
And that's the list. Next video goes darker. Horror on Netflix has the same issue. The second something big drops, everything else gets buried. I've got 10 horror movies on there right now that deserve way more attention. Some are slow burn, some are brutal, and a couple might really mess with you. All worth it. Go check that out next. If you enjoyed this, a like helps, and subscribe if you want 2 of these every week. See you in the next one.